Today we're talking about you. I'm going to make sure that you're better than me. Hey, what's up? I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and each week I release videos on the martial arts, philosophy, technique, training, that sort of thing. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, I hope you stick around. I hope you subscribe so you know when my next video comes out, and I hope that you drop some comments down below so that we can have a conversation. Tune in to the end of the video to see comments from last week. Today we're talking about why it's really important that you become better than me, and why it's my job to make sure that happens. When we train, when we're on the mat, when we're working on things, there are really two people who are responsible for how good you become. And those two people are yourself, naturally. The work that you do, the things that you accomplish, and the progress that you make is yours. It is up to you. But there's also the person that you're working with. That person's job is to draw the best out of you. And similarly, it is your job to draw the best out of them. And so I'm not specifically talking about the instructor here. The instructor should also be pulling the best out of you. But I can also have the best intentions of drawing the best things out of you, but not be the person who's working with you, who's allowing you to not reach your potential. I think one of the simplest examples of this is if you're training the martial arts and you have to defend something. Maybe it's a block, maybe it's movement, maybe it's something like that. As your uke just being the receiver of your technique, you being the tori, the doer of the technique, or the nage if you're a thrower, or there's a lot of different terms for that role. There's one term for the receiver, which is uke. As the uke, one of the most important things I can do is make sure that I'm sincere. If I'm not sincere, if, say, it's really simple, I am gonna punch you, and you need to defend this punch in whatever way you've been told to defend it. Maybe it's just moving out of the way, maybe it's a block, maybe it's something else. If I throw a punch in a way that without doing anything at all, you're safe, nothing happens, then how much are you going to learn? How much are you going to practice the skills that you're being shown? It's one of the very first lessons that I work with people on is being sincere when they do that. You have to have some level of control. You can't just go knocking people out. You have to be able to, and we'll talk later a little bit about a good uke and how a good uke performs, and the difference between a training uke and a demonstration uke. But if we're working technique, if I'm stopping short, I'm stopping way short, miles away, then you don't have to do anything. Then you might get really good at figuring out this hand motion, and you're like, oh, I just need to block like this, even though you really didn't need to. So what you're really learning is to block when it's unnecessary, which is not a good skill. Learning how to only move when necessary is an incredible skill. It's really, really valuable. But movement, at least the way that I teach movement, is the most important thing. It's the first defense. The first defense is to not be where you can be hit. And that comes in many forms. That comes in just getting out of the way. That comes in finding into that zero pressure area where you are ahead of or behind where the impact is, or stunting the impact, jamming it, and making sure that it can never reach fruition. All of those things are making sure that you don't get hit. All of those things are based on movement. So if I never punch you, so if I punch you like this, if this is my punch, and it's never like this, then you'll never move. And if you never move, you'll never learn. I need to draw that out of you. I need to be able to hit in such a way that keeps you reasonably safe for the purposes of training, but also make sure that you're exercising the skill being taught. And subsequently, I should want that. I should desire that of you when we switch sides and it's my turn. I should want you to deliver things in the same way, in a way that makes me learn, in a way that makes me challenged to become better. Now, I might not get that. You might not do that for me, and hopefully I can communicate with you and say, hey, here's what I need from you. And hopefully you have a good instructor who's seeing these things too and going, hey, let's make sure this is happening, because if it's not, you're not doing each other any favors. If I don't have any of that stuff, what I do have is the ability to control myself to make you better. And if I can make you better, I can make me better by creating a challenge. And some people stop progressing other people because they're afraid that that person will become better than they are, and that will make them feel inferior. And that's the thing we have to get rid of. We have to be able to make our partners, our group, the people around us better. And this is in life too. If I want to protect my position at work, so I make sure that you never become good at what you do, that's a backhanded way of approaching the fact that what I should do is make you really good at your job, and I should hope to build an environment where you help make me better at my job, and we rise together. You know, a rising tide raises all ships kind of thing. I can't just build a dam and go, well, I don't have to worry about the tide anymore because I've blocked all of that off. Instead, I need to help rise that tide. I need to bring those ships with me, and I need to make sure that we're doing it in a good way, and that we have the ability and the skill to become better, to reach our potential. This is a choice we make. This is an option that we have every day in every situation. We could be standing at the cashier at the gas station, and we have the ability to exercise the ability to help someone become better. Silently, non-verbally, I don't have to even do that. I can just make sure that the experience lends itself to learning. And that sounds weird. And maybe it is weird. But what I want is I want every interaction to be something that elevates people. It doesn't always work. I mean, don't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen, because it's not always going to work. Sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you're going to have the best intentions in the world, and you're not going to hit it. In fact, you might make things worse. But as long as your intentions are good, and as long as you continue to refine and continue to recognize and be aware of when you didn't do it, when the intentions were good but the action wasn't there, and you continue to work on that, it will happen. And this is what allows us to build up the people around us. And showing that potential is what allows the people around us to build us. If I make you better than me, then I have no choice but to reach my own potential to keep up. I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be here always. So why would I want to make sure that you were always at least a little bit less than me for any reason other than just the fact that you just haven't gotten there yet? There are people who will do that. They will specifically keep people back so that they're not challenged by those people. If I die tomorrow, those are the people who are going to pick up where I left off. If I hold them back, then I've limited what they're capable of doing. I've limited where we're able to go next, and I've just made everything harder. And I've stolen from them and from the people who will learn from them. I've stolen all of that. So instead, recognizing my own mortality, I should pay attention to the fact that if I make you better, if I do everything I can to make you better than me, then when the time comes for you to pick up where I left off, you will be capable. And hopefully you'll be a person who does that for the people around you. So let's talk Uke for a second. I mentioned earlier that you have a Training Uke and you have a Demonstration Uke. A Training Uke being your partner. You've been given a technique, you've been given something to work, and you're working together. That Uke should draw those things out of you. Like I mentioned, if I need to hit harder or faster or follow through more to make sure that you have the proper environment to train the skill that you're trying to learn, then I should do that. I should do so safely. I should also be aware of what the potential is if you don't do the right thing and be able to make those adjustments as necessary. As I become good at this, then I can help you to grow. It's just like, I look at boxing and I look at the pad holders, the mitt holders. That's a skill by itself. They're different skills. Similarly, you can be a good Uke. You can train yourself and build in yourself the ability to draw good things out of people by amplifying things that need amplified and dampening the things that don't, so that you create this perfect combination of growth for this person. I really liked what Hoist Gracie had to say in one of the videos I watched of his, where he's talking about the three training partners that you'll have, and you're gonna have the dummy, you're gonna have the partner, and you're gonna have the opponent. And the dummy being the person who's just there to let you try it, and they're not really providing any kind of resistance. They're just making sure that you have the option. You have a body to work with that's in the right shape to get the thing done. Then you have the partner who resists in good ways to help. And this video is talking about the partner, the person who is resisting in the right ways to make you better. Then you have the opponent, and the opponent is the person who's trying to make sure that you fail. So when you succeed anyway, then you've got it. You're doing really good. I like that escalation, and I believe that the Uke fits those. Those are the three variations of the Uke, and I believe that is a really good way to look at it. The Demonstration Uke is different. Well, maybe I'll even split it up. This could be a demonstration at a tournament or something like that, or this could be a demonstration just for the class. Here's the technique. One of the things that you want to strive to do if you're an Uke for the demonstration is to think about what is the best way to make sure people can see what's happening, to illustrate the things that need learned, the details that need seen. And so sometimes you might move in a bigger way, or move more openly, or some other thing that you're like, yeah, I mean, if I was working with you, I wouldn't move like this, but me moving like this now helps you see the entirety of what's being shown. That's also a really powerful skill because it helps make sure that information is conveyed. You know, if I'm the instructor, I can have the ability to demonstrate the technique and point out what is important, but a really good uke can help emphasize the right things, help make sure that all of those things get seen, and help finish the job. I'm teaching it with their body to help show what's going on. If they can use their body to help show the parts that are hard for me to show because it's not my body, then together we've shown a lot of information. It's a really powerful tool, a really powerful training tool, and something that the average uke is not thinking about, and something that I encourage you to think about when you're demonstrating. What can I do to make this more visible, more illustrative of what's happening? And then lastly, you got that demonstration uke, who's, let's be real, their job is to make things look bigger and more grandiose and more spectacular because they're just trying to build the energy, right? If I'm doing big throws and they're jumping into the technique to be thrown bigger and higher and harder, then it's going to look more impressive, it's going to be more exciting, and that's just the drama of it. And that's exactly what it is. It's drama, and drama is different. You'll never see a real fight in a movie because real fights look like garbage. But you can see these fights that are choreographed for the camera and choreographed for the angles, and sometimes even just slowed down so that you can actually appreciate what took place in that moment. These are things that we do to make it entertaining. A real fight is not very entertaining, so we shouldn't confuse the two. So that's it. That's why I think it's really important that you become better than me, and that every moment that I work with you, I'm working to make sure that you are becoming better in that moment, and in the next moment, and the moment after that. And I should never be in a position where I don't want you to be better than me. I should want that from you. I should want you to have that, and I should want you to challenge me. I should want your mere presence and your ability to challenge whether or not I have that ability, and if I should continue to strive to move forward. And especially the longer you train, it's harder to get around that. It's harder to get your head around that and to put in the work, because it's easy to rest because you've already put in a lot of work, and that doesn't get you anywhere. So make the people around you better. Let their tide raise your ship. All right, now let's talk comments from last week. All right, let's talk comments from last week. So last week we had the video on Les Bubka's book, The Anxious Black Belt. Jumping into the comments, we've got Little Giant Robo saying, love your book talks. Thanks for another one. I'm juggling 3 books right now. I'm reading The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, which is some really wholesome philosophy regardless of religion. I'm reading the Lotus Sutra out of the personal interest in East Asian spirituality. I don't recommend it unless folks are interested in becoming a Buddhist. And I am reading Training for Sudden Violence by Rory Miller. I might recommend you check out that last one if you haven't. Several methods are things that can be integrated into other forms of training. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. Actually, what I love is the first book that you mentioned was a gift. I was given that gift by a really close friend and student of mine, Joel, who has been on this channel before, and I'm really thankful for that book. So it's really cool that you mentioned that one in particular. And then Rory Miller's stuff. I haven't read Training for Sudden Violence yet. I think I have it on my list. I might even already own it, but it's just on my stack that I'm working through. So be looking forward to that one, because I do want to talk about that. There's some really good things that he mentions and discusses that I really want to talk about. So thank you for those recommendations. Bentley's Backwoods Bushcraft says, I have a YouTube channel as well, even though it is not focused on martial arts. I'd like if you could find the time for you to go to my channel and evaluate my martial arts videos. Always looking for feedback from a skilled martial artist. Hope to hear from you. Interesting. I might try to cut in some stuff on this, because I haven't done this yet. I just read this just now. Nicholas NJ says, Eskrima or Tonfa if you had both in the trunk of your car and had a chance to grab one in a self-defense situation, or a baseball bat. Choice 3. And so, interesting question out of the blue. Probably whichever one I could get my hands on first. And in a lot of ways, the way they function to me is exactly the same. They have attributes. Every weapon has its own attribute that makes it effective in certain things. The Tonfa, the handle, is obviously the attribute that is very specific to it, not just holding it by the handle and rotating it, but when you hold it by the main shaft and have that handle forward, you have the ability to hit with it, refining kind of like a shillelagh or a club, having all of your energy go into that small point, and I actually prefer to use it that way. So if either one of those ended up in my hand, it'd be fine. Now here's the problem with the eskrima, or as I would call it, the baston. Eskrima describes the art. Eskrima means fencing. It means to fence. The baston, or the stick, is the weapon of the escrimador. The problem with the baston is, while it's very effective, your typical rattan baston is for training. it has give to it, things like that. They're very effective, but the hardwood sticks and things like that are better for conflict because they are more brutal. There's more mass behind them. They don't give in the same way. So depending if I had just a straight rattan stick and a tonfa made of a hardwood, the ability to transfer energy is going to be better in that hardwood tool. Now, I haven't looked at these comments, so I gotta go see what's happening there. Kyokushin Society, forget those. I'd use a lug wrench tire tool. Every car has them, and they can work like a modified tonfa, just made out of harder steel material. Think about it. He's not wrong. That steel is gonna do some work. Now, if you gotta be digging in your trunk forever to get under it because they put it under a floor panel and bolted it down, I'm gonna grab whichever is the easiest to get to. And then right there, the tire iron is bolted under the spare tire. It would take too long to get. My tonfas are just in my gym bag. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you only have a second to grab a tool to defend yourself, grab whatever is closest and use it. And even sometimes that takes too long. So sometimes skip the tool. You know, I've talked about this in the Filipino classes, stuff like that, that I carry knives. They're a useful tool in day-to-day life. In an altercation, accessing that knife, and I've trained many ways to do it and carry different types of knives that have different ways of making that better. It still may take longer or give away my intentions of a preemptive strike to where just hitting, just leaving it in my pocket and maybe grabbing for it later once the situation changes is better in the instance of time. The strategy, the tactic involved, reaching for it could take too long. Trying to get it out could take too long, create potential. So sometimes you don't grab a weapon at all because the surprise is worth the difference that grabbing the tool would make. Nicholas also said, curious, do you consider Kabuto a separate art? Our instructor considers Kabuto an essential part of karate, and that's why the first Bokata techniques and sparring were required for second kyu. Jute has baseball bat defense. We had both. Kabuto, right now I teach them separately, and just try to give them different separate time to dedicate to them, because the problem is we'd work specific Kabuto for a while and then not touch it for a really long time. And so I do have requirements of the karateka to have a certain level of Kabuto. And in this case, just like I've talked in a different video about having a particular kata for students after they get past the teki katas, is a specific weapon that they train and become proficient in. They'll learn the different weapons, but they'll have one in particular that I want them to spend time becoming proficient in specifically. And so it's definitely integrated, but it's not a day one thing. It has day one potential, but right now we do it more in seminars and things because the class just wasn't very well attended. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. Stuart James Gray, karate saved me from being an introvert. I was extremely shy, scared, and self-conscious child. As soon as I began my karate journey at 14, I found that we were all the same to some degree. We always encouraged each other, regardless of the rank. It was a safe place to explore our potential, especially once we were asked to lead warm-ups and eventually teach classes. I was 16 or 17-year-olds leading the adults classes. How cool was that? They really did encourage me too. It gave me the confidence to be able to speak in public. I now do public speaking as a pastor. All I do is just look at the audience as karate students. You know the old saying that goes that if you want to get over stage fright, just pretend your audience is naked? I just pretend they're all wearing geese. I love that. And I can honestly say the same thing. Training in the martial arts and dealing with those things and leading classes and doing that stuff did the same thing for me. I do public speaking in a way where I'm a technician, so I'm telling people what I think the solution is to the problems, and sometimes that involves selling things and being like, here is the thing you need to buy to fix this. And so I'm literally telling you how to spend your money and to stand up and feel confident that I have made the right choice and all of that, and to be able to have these discussions and be challenged on my ideas. All of that confidence came out of the martial arts for me, and so I think that's really, really awesome that it did for you too. And Les Bubka says, one thing about the cover, if you look closely in the darkness, you can see a dragon. You can. I went back and looked, and sure enough, the darkness is a dragon that's getting punched by a karateka. I really like that. Really like that. So that's it for this week. We'll go ahead and jump back to this video and then drop comments in this video so that we can talk more next week. See you then. If you like what I'm doing, if you liked videos like this, you can subscribe right here so you know when the next one comes out. You can hit a playlist of videos like this right here. Here's a couple more that I think you might like. I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV. I'll catch you in the next one.